You know what? Anyway, I can. Start out with just a reading of, this is a notice hereby giving a public meeting of the Strafford County Delegation Executive Committee. It's scheduled for Friday, May 8th, 2026 at 9 a.m., which it is. The meeting will require a physical quorum, but will provide remote access for the public and will be held as noted above in the cafe conference room, lower level of the William A. Grimes Justice Administrative Building, 259 County Line Road, Dover, New Hampshire, and to conduct the following business. We're approving the minutes from February 2026, approving the second round of tax anticipatory note of borrowing up to 16 million for 2026. Review and approve the first quarter of the 2026 budget, approve the distribution of previously approved salary schedule for union contracts to non-union agreements to the appropriate budgetary line item as per document entitled Strafford County 2026 item transfers, and any other businesses that may legally come before the committee. With that done, we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. With that, I'll have the clerk call the roll.
Bailey,
Present.
Burnham. Here. DeRoy.
Here.
Harrington.
Here.
Oregon.
Here.
Howard. Kaczynski.
Here.
LaMontagne. Here. Clerk is here. Malone.
No.
Potenza. Schmidt.
Yes.
Southworth.
Here.
Long. And Howland.
Here. So we have a quorum and are ready to roll. First order of business is, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the executive committee meeting of February 20th, 2026. Moved by Representative Southworth. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Representative LaMontagne. Are there any changes or things that need to be done that Janet didn't get done?
Janet.
Yeah, excuse me.
Anything that you didn't get done.
Well, it's like she puts them out there as draft, and the hope is if anyone catches it, so.
Yeah, she did everything I requested.
Whatever, however poorly worded I did that.
Very small changes.
Anything else? I don't think we need a roll call, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, it is unanimous. That moves us to item 5, which is the approval of the second round of the tax anticipation note borrowing up to 16 million for 2026. I will turn that over to either the administrator or the commissioner.
It has to be the treasurer.
Treasurer, there we go.
He is here.
That's by state law. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to show off or anything, but
I thought you just wanted to be here because you like being.
I do love it. What, 7 years? I know my way around. Okay, we do need to borrow a second hand, and it's approximately $16 million. And I'd like to make that recommendation.
Questions? Yes, Representative Harrington.
Yeah, my question would be, is this, I know we do this routinely, is this a routine
Yeah.
borrowing? Or is this anything in excess because of the, potential shortfall of revenue?
Routine. This one's routine.
All right, thank you. I'm happy.
Any other questions? Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve the second round of the tax anticipation note borrowing up to 16 million for 2026. Moved by Representative.
So moved, yeah.
Moved by Representative Southworth, seconded by Representative Schmidt. Any comments?
Both.
Since this is a big money one, I will have the clerk call the roll.
Bailey,
Nay.
Burnham,
Yes.
DeRoy,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Oregon,
Yes.
Krasinski,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yeah.
Clerk, yes. Smith,
Yes.
Southworth,
Yes.
and Howland.
Yes. Is that 10 and 1?
Yeah.
So that's 10 in favor, 1 opposed, motion passes. Which brings us to the heart of the meeting, which is the review and approval of the first quarter of the 2026 budget report, which is this long document. If I start off, for either the commissioners and the administrators, any like wrap up of the first quarter?
It's, expenses are on target, revenues short, and primarily at the House of Correction, which has been identified to you all in countless memos. And so, as you'll hear about at the end of the meeting, we've taken some measures to, cut down on the expense part of it. Because as you know, it's, half of our budget, a little over half of our budget is depending on revenue. So if we don't have the revenue, we have to make additional difficult choices. So we'll talk about that when the time comes.
Representative Southwood?
Not to be premature, but it does seem like, of course, these problems didn't really show up in the first quarter. With it
Well,
being 23%.
They did in March.
Right, but it
And that was the trend.
Yeah.
That's when we saw the trend happening. And it's happened again in April. So, obviously, that's not part of what you're looking at today.
right,
But, the trend is. So when the budget was proposed, October, November, December, January, were all at that rate in which we put in the budget.
yes,
February was at that rate, except of course it was 10% less because there's 28 days in February as opposed to, so we calculated by the day.
yeah.
That was fine. It was March that was the,
So just to follow up, so what we'd expect when we get at the halfway point, that number will be much worse.
well,
Or we
between
were.
May and June,
Yeah.
follow trend.
depending,
The answer is
yeah.
yes. That's why we.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
why we closed high.
Yeah,
Representative Kaczynski?
I've been concerned with this issue and what's been mentioned. My question is, did this happen because there were a handful of protesters at the budget hearing or because it couldn't have just happened immediately that all of a sudden there's less?
It did, so the impact on us happened right after. Right after the delegation meeting and right after the protesters. I think that ICE is sensitive to that. And.
Where are they putting these people then?
Someplace else.
Someplace else, just exactly as we said was gonna happen.
told you that was gonna happen.
There's other places, not in New Hampshire, but there's other places for them to put these ladies and gentlemen.
And did anybody reach out?
Oh, yeah.
Have you
We've
had a
reached out.
conversation? I'd like to hear from you for once.
Oh.
Can you tell me about the
Hold on,
conversation that we
I'm
had?
gonna hold up 1 second. So have you finished, Representative Kaczynski, and then Representative Valentine, you had your hand up, and then I'll get to you, Representative.
I have it's an unrelated question and maybe we should continue discussing the revenue situation.
I'll do Representative Roy and I'll get there.
We're just, it seems that we're getting into discussion of the budget deficiency. The line item we're supposed to be discussing is the first quarter budget.
Yes.
So can we stick to that first and go through that?
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes.
So you can't see him in the back of your head, but the superintendent is waiting to address the issue.
Okay.
As it relates to the question, my response to the question about whether or not somebody has reached out, while that is a deviation from what the task is at hand, I'm happy to answer that question, or I can just wait until after.
Get to that
If you would
section.
like, if you would like me to do that.
we should do what the motion is on.
Yeah.
Then I have a related question.
Okay. Ask away.
I was wondering what was going on with the supervised visitation program that we're at 122% of the total budget.
We're stopping it. we were awaiting, we budgeted for it for a couple of months. With the idea that we had a federal grant that was supposed to be awarded in October, but the feds still have not awarded it. Now, historically, when you're being in final areas of consideration for these grants, they continue to call you back and ask you additional questions. If you're not going to be considered, you just get a letter and says, we're not considering you, thank you very much for applying. But because we were getting continual questions about the grant proposal that we put forward, we decided that instead of closing it and then looking to reopen it a month later, we would just give it a little more time. So, but I think the commissioner have directed me to close it. So we're not gonna wait any longer.
Representative Morgan?
Do you want to briefly expand on like what the supervised visitation program is, what problems also, what happens to the inmates and their families who are using it there?
No inmates.
Who's using
No inmates. These are
divorced individuals.
individuals that are in a strain in their relationship. And I'm sorry, excuse me. One party has convinced the court that there shouldn't be unsupervised visits with the shared children. So this program kind of monitors those visits. We've had a federal grant in this program for years. They've changed some of the requirements. We believe we've submitted a document that complied with those changes, but we were supposed to hear in October, and there's just only so far we can go.
Yeah, clarify.
Yes, also what's happening to the families who are, or the parents who are using the program, what are they doing now?
Well, right now, they're still using it because we haven't canceled it yet, but I'm not clear what how the court's gonna change their order.
Thanks.
Representative Harrington, you had a question and I'll.
Yeah, I have a series of questions on the budget. So,
Okay.
let me start with the easy one. It's not a lot of money, but it seems like almost every department has a deficit when it comes to unemployment or.
We pay it up front.
Okay.
We pay it up front on the first $8,000 of, and then we don't pay it again.
Oh, okay.
So-
It seems like it's just there's no
It
budget
would
for
be,
anything.
it would be.
Okay, so this next,
But it's gonna
this go away the next 3 quarters.
Yes, sir, it
I
would.
told you that was easy now.
Mhm.
Looking at a lot of these, and by looking at the line item transfer thing here, I'm assuming that if the budget says so much money saved for overtime, then if they run out of that money, they have to, we have to approve it. Someone has to approve a transfer of other funds from a different line item to go into that.
Now, what you're seeing in those transfers basically is the adjustments that were made in cooperation with the unions and the non-union employees. It was set aside in the budget. And now it's being transferred to the appropriate line items.
You lost me completely.
Okay,
If I look at, look at the bigger ones, Department of Corrections, I know this one's coming. And they're way over on the overtime budget for the first quarter. And we have overtime as well, yeah. We have overtime, the line item transferred 122,000. That's coming from some other line item in the Department of Corrections.
no, it's coming from some other line item in the budget.
So it could be coming from a different department.
No, it's,
Only within that own budget.
in the original budget, there was 2 line items set aside for raises. So when the original budget went into place, that's the transfer of those 2 line items out into the regular budget.
So you're saying that the fact that they're over budget on overtime has.
Don't confuse these.
I think those are
You're giving me an answer to a question I'm not asking.
Yeah,
I'm asking about the overtime budget, for example, for the Department of Correction, which I believe is used 40% or something of their total budget for the year in the first quarter. And now, in fact, that's what it is. And now they say in this transfer sheet that they're gonna transfer $122,000 from somewhere I'm trying to find out where that's coming from, to the Department of Corrections overtime budget line item. Okay, so where does the 122,000 come from?
There's two line items that were in the original budget that was proposed, that were just gross dollar line items. Those line items get transferred out in the first quarter into the appropriate line items, pay for raises. And that's where that money coming.
Okay, so that's where the money's coming from.
Yes, sir.
We still have the fact that the overtime budget was used 40% of its annual amount in the first quarter.
correct.
So what are we gonna do in the next 3 quarters?
So I'm just trying to clarify his question. So what he's saying is like, we have a pot of money. That's 100%. We've taken 40% in the first quarter. In theory, we're gonna run out of money eventually in the third quarter.
Right.
Right? We're running at that pace, so.
And that's not the only one, it's multiple departments
Right.
basically.
Is that kind of what you're trying to get at?
Yes.
Superintendent answering one and the day.
So my overtime overspent just because I had 2 academies that I had to send. That I had to send people to. Each academy had 3 people per academy to send. That generates overtime because I have to cover. The reason why I have to cover is because we are at minimum staffing at our facility. The efforts that we have made thus far is to drop my minimum staffing again, so that we have less people working over there. So in the event that I have people who are out for heart issues, a knee replacement, double knee replacement, shoulder, thumb and wrist issues, cancer, or for a doctor's note, I have to fill those positions. If they are work related, I can bring them back on a light duty description in the event that a doctor signs off on the light duty description that we provide to the staff member to get signed off by a doctor. If it's not signed off, then they can't come back to work.
And is that happening?
That has happened. That has happened throughout the first quarter. I've had a myriad of people who have been ill for various different reasons. I'm happy to show you a video of one of my staff members being attacked. That just happened recently. Fortunately, that didn't result, but those are some of the things that happen at our facility. What I'm doing now is I'm trying to come up with ways that I can minimize the staffing requirement. I have entertained notions of, like, for example, I came in at 5 this morning. We cut our minimum number on 3rd shift down so that we didn't have an additional staff member that had to be there from 11 PM to 7 AM. They are locked in at 10:45 and they come out at 5:30. So at 5:30, at 5 o'clock, myself on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I come in at 5 and I shift my schedule so that it doesn't pay overtime. On the other 2 days, my classification sergeant comes in and shifts his schedule so we don't have to pay overtime. I'm exploring additional staff members who might be able to utilize that same role in doing something so that we minimize the overtime that happens. I have to send people to the academy because they're not eligible for other specialized locations unless they become a certified officer and they've been there for a year. So I send them to the academy so that we can, this morning I've got 4 oral boards that I'm not there for because we're trying to post and fill positions in our booking department. Booking is exceptionally challenging to work down there. You have to be familiar with court paperwork. You have to be able to properly articulate what it is that we're trying to do to somebody who frankly doesn't want to talk to anybody, so that we can continue to provide a level of care for those individuals. I haven't been able to put people in there because either the people who are qualified are comfortable where they are with the days off that they have, and they don't want to have that additional responsibility. But I have new upcoming staff that have an appetite for that. And so I have to get them to the academy so that they're eligible for those positions. I'm not interested in waiving that academy enrollment because there's really value in becoming a certified corrections officer or a certified police officer. That certification is something that gets vetted by the Police Standards and Training Council to make sure that they are educated in all of the facts, all of the processes that should be educated. So my overtime is overspent, and one of the things that I was dreading was coming in and answering this question. Because I knew it was coming, but I don't have, I would love to tell you that I can just fix it like that. What I can tell you is that I have had extensive conversations with County Administrator Bauer and the Board of County Commissioners about this in ways in which I can come up with solutions. Something that I knew I was gonna talk to this group about. And those are some of my plans to try to mitigate the overtime. I've cut my staffing profile down. And I've explored ways that I might be able to fill those overtime positions with people who are working their normal hours, such as myself or Sergeant Cadborn, to see if that would work. I'm pretty busy, but I've been able to kind of do that, and I'm hoping that I can get additional staff to do that. I'm intending on getting additional staff.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
Well, I understand emergencies, unanticipated things come up, like people getting sick or whatever, so forth. But having training where you know the staff needs training, I would think would have been anticipated and built into the budget, which apparently it's not. But the fact comes down to is 93% of the budget is gone. And how are you going to function the rest of the year? It sounds like you're trying to Band-Aid here and Band-Aid there, but you're gonna use 7% of your budgeted overtime spread out over 3 quarters. Sounds to me like we've got a big friggin' hole, and I'm trying to figure out how that's gonna be filled.
And that's,
Yeah.
So-
I think we all wanna know that. That's exactly the issue.
I'll let, go ahead and get.
So my intent is to get additional people to do more work, not at the overtime rate. There are additional aspects that I'd like to do, but I have to do it through contract negotiations. And those are things that I can't necessarily control until I have an opportunity to sit down for contract negotiations.
I just wanted to clarify with the supervised visitation. So with that, closing everything, are you gonna work with like the court system to help bridge that gap there?
Let me just, I'd like to address this because supervisor visitation program was a valuable service. What's happened though? What's happened is that parents who don't get along, okay? And the courts are using this program to basically reduce their docket. Parents don't get along, they say, you know, I'm supposed to see my kid on this weekend. And he's not letting me see the kids, or she's not letting me see the kid, so they go to court. Okay, so the supervised visitation program was established to, is that my phone? What is that?
That's why nobody else is paying attention.
Yeah, really.
Are we off the subject now, though, of the corrections? And we're.
Well,
He was asking about overtime and how we feel.
Yeah,
overtime
I saw
and
a
the-
question on that.
Okay,
and I don't
first
know if anybody
and
else-
the burn rate, and then she's asking about a different side.
Well, why don't you stick with the jail and then we can move on.
Could we finish the jail piece first?
Okay, there any other questions on the jail? Senator Burnham?
If there is a shortage of staff, like, is there a way that you deny intake?
So I can't deny intake of county inmates. Like, we're required to accept county inmates that come in. There's not a tremendous value in denying boarding intakes because I still have the staff. If I deny people from coming in, I can't collapse my housing to open up a post that doesn't have to be covered. So I don't, statutorily, I'm required to take in county inmates that get brought in from cities and municipalities. Contractually, we accept US Marshal, ICE detainees, Bureau of Prison, commitments that come into the facility. And if I were to stop taking in those that, if I was granted permission to do that from the Board of County Commissioners, it would have just a negative effect on our revenue stream, because I'm still gonna have to have that same staffing profile for the inmate population that I have existing there today.
Representative Penta?
Yeah, I have a bunch of questions. So first, why would we be taking from overtime? Shouldn't we have
overtime should just be, of course, if there's, there's lack of staff and, or somebody is out sick or whatever it may be. Instead of why didn't we bump up officer training? That's my first question. And then where are we at right now, like with the numbers? Are you fully staffed? Are you in need? How many, how many, in a sense, beds are open? Like, I want to kind of understand the profile that we're at. Of course, I missed the beginning of this ICE thing, which, they can fill me in after, because I don't know what's going on with that. But I kind of want to understand, where we're at. I would say, if we have less people, I would say that we should have this kind of overtime, especially since we're talking about first quarter.
So I have three open positions right now. Those positions I'm kind of holding off right now because of the budget constraints that we're operating under. The overtime is largely generated in the first quarter from those unanticipated absences due to medical issues and the two academies that happened. So that's two 5-week academies that happen, three people for each academy, so a total of 6 people that went to the academy. And one came from first shift, one came from second shift, and one came from third shift to kind of evenly distribute the impact on the operation over there. We are at this morning, we are at approximately 367 inmates that are incarcerated with us. And so our max capacity is largely 435. In the past, I've said 495, but that involved housing up in the annex. We don't utilize the annex anymore. That's actually been repurposed for another process happening here in the county. So about 435. But again, and forgive me if I sound like a broken record, 435 is the perfect classification that comes in, the right amount of sex offenders, the right amount.
Exactly, I know how everything situates there, exactly. Okay,
Follow up?
I get that, no, okay, so why wouldn't we have, I don't know, why wouldn't we have increased so it's not overtime when people are going off, why wouldn't we have increased the training piece? Like when if we always anticipate that, shouldn't the training be where they're going for certification? Like, why would we ever have that? That should all be lumped into that line item. I think it's hard, to say that we're sending people away, for training and stuff like that and having to use understanding because filling the holes, having to use the overtime for it. But I don't know, wouldn't that make sense?
Well, first of all, the training line item is to pay the cost for certifying the officer.
Correct.
Okay. It has nothing to do with covering overtime. Now, if you threw overtime in that line item, it would skew. If you guys want us to do that, we can do that, but it will skew the budget. We're paying overtime. That officer training line is just simply what we pay the academy for I think it's $750. Yeah, it's probably gone up since then, but it used to be $750. It would just skew the budget. But if you guys want us to do that, all the overtime that we pay as a result of an officer being away, we catch that overtime and move it out of the other overtime budget and stick it in there.
I hate to jump in and butt in, but I'm trying to clarify. So I think what you're really asking is that why wasn't you put like an asterisk next to the overtime line where we're approving the budget and saying that we're anticipating that, say, 6 officers are going to go for 5 weeks for training. Therefore, that will inflate the overtime line because that's where the staffing is to cover that actual training. And then when we got to the first quarter in 2027, then we saw that there was an elevated. It wouldn't be elevated. It was not because the overtime would be larger. So I think I'm just trying to clarify.
It just seems as if because I mean, are we looking at, since we're just in the first quarter here, are we looking at that? I mean, if it's at that 93%, are we looking for an additional $500,000 that we're gonna be hit with from now until then?
So I don't have, the association, the New Hampshire Association of Counties are the ones that conduct the certification training that happens.
Mhm.
It just so happened that they did 2 in the first quarter, and it's my understanding that the next one isn't gonna be until October.
Okay,
So I'm kind of front loaded, and some of that stuff gets identified in the descriptions, you know, like some of the training, some of the other training also has to do with Relias, which is our online training that staff can do while they're sitting at their desk instead of having to do training after their typical work hours. And that's about a $15,000 purchase that you have to do on the front end.
gotcha.
So we make that payment, but it carries us through all 4 quarters. So that's that's some of the justification in my training costs that are there.
So we could probably expect, if we're gonna go over, maybe by, like, just give me a guesstimate, 100 grand?
It's hard to say because it depends on whether staff gets sick.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Because our staffing patterns are such a minimal.
I have,
If somebody goes out,
Just based upon your history and what has happened over the last couple of years, what would you project? We're gonna be over, obviously.
yes.
Could I just mention one other thing? The bottom line of the,
budget.
what we try and do is save in other areas of the budget. You'll notice the bottom line of the House of Correction budget is 25% spent.
Yeah.
Meaning that we've saved out of other lines
ways,
to make up for this overage. Our intention is to continue that and in fact accentuate that
Okay.
with some changes that are gonna be made today. When this meeting's over, we'll be, gonna be meeting with the superintendent. So we're hoping that we bring this back to a lesser amount, not a greater amount. So you can see we've already started, because, you know, the bottom line is 25%.
Yep, I agree. That's
I
fine.
feel like interrupt.
And if I remember correctly,
So
I don't want to, just
go
one
ahead,
second
go
to
ahead.
finish. If I remember correctly, that's actually one of the things that you encouraged last year.
That's right.
This time, though, you know, we've identified this in the first quarter instead of at the tail end of the
Yes,
year.
exactly.
So because we've identified it in the first quarter, we're actually doing what.
Being more proactive, exactly.
Being more proactive about it.
Okay.
And that's our intent.
I said 2 things I wanted to throw in there. One, we're gonna have a, believe it or not, second quarter in August, so we'll have a follow-up. So in terms of the burn rate for the overtime, you'll have an update of that to see how that kind of played out. And it's gonna go in the minutes, so as we end up going into 2027 budget, I think this is something when we have discussion about the overtime line, particularly training, because I know the sheriff probably saw this at the municipal level, where we have officers going to the training academy, that the same thing happens at the municipal level. That you're trying to bring somebody in, trying to bring them on staff, you're trying to cover for that position, so. Only reason I'm asking is like, this is gonna come up again when we do the budget, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Representative Southworth.
Probably most people know this, but it is a statewide problem everywhere, you know, cities, schools don't pay overtime, but almost every agency is having a lot of issues with overtime. And one of the things, that's important too, and I don't support it, but, overtime is actually cheaper than hiring a new person. Because you're not paying all the benefits and, all those extra things. Certainly for a business, it's better to have the right people, but overtime is actually cheaper than hiring new people. I don't know if you saw the article, it was about a month ago. The highest paid people in New Hampshire work for the New Hampshire prison system. And it's because they are superintendents, highly paid people who are getting like, I don't know if it's 100, but they're getting huge amounts of overtime. I mean, they're making like 400,000.
Yeah.
And so you did see
Yeah, I
that.
saw that.
So I'm just trying to put it in perspective. We have a much smaller problem, but we're also addressing it.
Yeah, what you're saying is true in a short term, like if you continue to have that be for like years, like, yes, it does catch up on you, and that's not the proper way, but exactly, in a short-term fashion, you're right, it does save, it saves on all of the benefits and that. I'm gonna ask one more question and then you guys can continue on, is, has this I know you said you were coming here and you pulled you away from some things, that are important, that are going on, and I just, you feel comfortable, you seem, I think this is, I think that you're coming here thinking that we're gonna stress you out a little bit. So I just kind of want to make sure that you're feeling good with where things are at. Is this put a lot of stress or strain in what you're doing?
I'm not gonna lie, I have a very stressful job. I try not to present that often. I get compensated very well for the job that I do, but it's stressful having staff have to work overtime. It's stressful to not hit the mark, the revenue mark. It's stressful to see that these expenditures are going in a direction that frankly, everybody in the room doesn't like where they go. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say, yeah, it's no big deal. What I can tell you is that it's not that, it's happening, not because we haven't talked about it. It's not because I haven't spent many executive sessions with the commissioners and the county administrator talking about ways that we might be able to do this in a safe and effective manner. My concern is that we have gotten ourselves into a situation. I have gotten myself into a situation as the administrator of the jail where these questions are gonna be asked, and that's exactly what you're supposed to do, and not necessarily knowing how to answer all of the questions all the time. Yeah, that's stressful, like, it is what it is.
The one other brief thing I wanted to mention is that with the bail reform law that went into place in the last legislative session, our own inmates are up 25%.
We're at
So you're gonna see
111.
food, you're gonna see medical, all the stuff that the legislature didn't contemplate when they changed that bail law, okay? Those costs are gonna be ours.
Yeah, I know that the governor has claimed, great credit for amending of the bail law, but it has to be said that there's ramifications to that.
That's right.
And the ramifications to that is about a 25% increase in our own inmate population.
Can we have him just talk, please? It's distracted, thank you.
Yeah, in our own inmate population. And, we're also managing that at the same time.
Okay, go ahead. It's compounded by the fact that the people who are incarcerated are sick. They are sick. And I don't mean like sick as in disgusting. They're unhealthy individuals that come in that almost always have not addressed any of the medical issues that they have had. And so we have a duty to provide care to individuals who are incarcerated. And so that we get them on diabetes medication because they never knew they were diabetic. We get them onto treatments because it makes much more sense to spend the money on providing care than having to come up with a massive cost from a lawsuit because we were deliberately indifferent in providing that care. The last thing that I want to say, since I have the floor and I don't want to forget, is that we have, Representative DeRoy, we have reached out to our partner agencies to see if we can get additional people. Just yesterday, we had an extensive conversation about how we could move people around to create a larger housing unit to accommodate individuals that could come into our facilities. At the last second, they ended up saying they're not gonna do that because it would cost too much to move everybody around. But those are the conversations that routinely happen out of my classification office that I have with like high-ranking individuals about trying to get additional people to come into the facility. Like, it's not because we're not trying.
I would really, I just want to comment on because of what you said, because I think it's really important. I don't even really want to go on record for this, but, I've had a lot of calls with a lot of people and bail reform was needed in many different ways. But there were huge gaps and loopholes and unfortunately, that bill was championed. It got pushed through and it got pushed through very quickly. And it would be really wonderful if you guys are part of that association, if every single county commission in the state, because it's not gonna be us. I can't get a meeting with the governor. It just doesn't work like that. We're just little old state reps, right? It's just not happening. But you guys can. and in showing the level of unintended consequences. There were many, many good things that needed to happen. People, I could tell you up in COAS, for example, I mean, we're talking about just a revolving door of someone that has literally, I mean, 9 times. I talked to prosecutors, I've talked to all of that. Yes, some of those things were fixed with this bail reform, but then there's a ton of other problems. And so, yeah, because there's huge cost for people that continue to break the law and the system and the courts and all of that. So that is what was needed to be fixed. There's a whole bunch of other things. You guys, you know, you have your meetings and stuff like that. Get all 10 counties together, get all commissioners together and push back about where things need to be changed.
I'm gonna bring us back to like the first quarter budget, so is this, all right, is this a question about the corrections?
Yes. it's
Okay.
about-
And then I'll come back to Representative Rebecca, we had that on the whole.
And it's just question and a comment. First, I start with comment is, it's true, the budget for the quarter is in spec, it's at 25%. So money's being moved around within the Department of Corrections, and so 2 things on that. First, on the overtime, you mentioned lawsuits. I've said this over and over again for years. When we have correction officers out there working with this much overtime, I'm sure there's people working 60, 70 hours a week for week after week after week. And if something happens, there's gonna be a lawsuit, whether it's from the corrections officer or from the inmate. This is not something, I mean, maybe it's cheaper, but maybe not cheaper in the long run to have correction officers work that many hours.
Yeah.
Second comment. Agreed. 548,000 was transferred within the Department of Corrections to cover various overruns. Most of it was overtime, but there were other ones, which tells me that all these other line items in the Department of Correction maybe were over budgeted because the money's coming from someplace. So you're not doing A to pay for B. So how essential is A? And I think that's something we need to be looking at in next year's budget. Is if you can take well over $500,000 from other line items within the Department of Corrections. And it's the same thing being done in multiple departments. You just have to be picked the wrong guy to come up, but. Yeah, I have to wonder on the budget as a whole, and I put this back to the commissioners, if we can take over $500,000 from within the budget and move it around, then some of those line items that you're getting money taken away from, maybe we're over budgeted to begin with. So.
Okay,
that's my
Representative, Morgan, is this about the jails or corrections?
Yes, I do.
Because I want to come back to, I'm trying to finish the correction, our.
He's got other things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe just, the first point you made about the lawsuits, so I can't order somebody to work, after 58 hours. So I can order them for 2 shifts, but once you get to 58 hours, you can't be ordered. All of that work has to be voluntary after that. So there is a bit of a protection that's in place. I can't mandate somebody to have to work 70 hours at once.
But there are people working 70 hours.
Absolutely. And it's their choice.
You're burning them out.
However, we reserve the right, and this is written into our contract, that if we start to notice that stuff, we can reel that back in. Much to the chagrin of somebody who might want to work additional hours, they make additional money, so.
Okay, Representative Morgan, and then I'll come back your guys' way.
There's then even more concerned for what the officers are working many hours of overtime, so the training that's open to them, also the police academy, what are you doing to just make them better at getting situations to escalate to the point where you have an attack, like the one you offer to show us the video of,
So I mean, part of our online training has de-escalation tactics. That's built into our use of force training. It's built into our role of a corrections officer training. It's built into, like, it's even part of sexual harassment, which we have coming up. That's perhaps one of the most important things that we can convey to our new staff and our existing staff, our de-escalation tactics. We also utilize Primix to teach some of that stuff if we feel as though someone warrants having some additional training on it, so.
Yeah, Representative Bailey?
Representative Schmidt probably alluded to it, but we're talking about, we're saving money by working people double time for year in and year out. How good is that for our employees? How legitimate is that?
Okay, Representative Burnham?
So I just wanted to say, I appreciate the line items that are being held back. Is that the continued plan moving forward to see where everything kind of falls in the other areas that are overexpended?
It certainly wasn't at its onset, but as the result of the situation that we're in now, absolutely, I'm gonna make sure that we are fiscally responsible as we move forward. Like, that's what I'm charged with doing.
All right, we finished the correction. All right, I'll circle back. I can't even remember what what's your question
It
was?
was about the participation program. My concern is for like the people arguing like, oh, they're not seeing their kid enough. It's mostly for the people that actually need it because they can't be trusted with their spouse. But the judge ordered them, okay, you can see your kids, but obviously you need your former spouse needs protection. That's where my concern comes in with it. Cause I deal with a lot of infighting with the committee of like petty stuff, and I just worry about the people that actually really needed this program.
Okay, we don't disagree with that at all. Right. The question is it a county responsibility? And it's really the responsibility of the court and DCYF to work those things together. The county has taken on that responsibility because we've gotten a total grant money for it. But now when the grant money has gone away, or doesn't appear as if we're getting the grant money, I can never tell with the feds. We're at a point where, people need to do their jobs and we need to not take it on and add money to the county taxpayer.
Amen to that.
I mean, I think what I've heard from the whole delegation at one time or another during this last budget process.
CYF is broken, totally broken.
All right, other questions on the first quarter budget? Representative Kaczynski.
Looking at these debt accounts, it says 44%. At 44%, can you explain that to me?
Yeah, we pay the bonds when they're due.
But they're not doing that quarter.
And most of our bonds are due in the first quarter. It will not be exceeded. We just pay them as they come due.
Great.
Other questions?
One more, sorry, the revenues portion, what is the miscellaneous thing from?
For any revenue that just might come in unexpectedly, as an example, I don't know if you heard on Channel 9, night before last, that the state settled with the Sackler family. And the state will be getting $300 million over the next 10 years. So we're one of the original 24 filers. All 10 counties and 14 cities and towns are original, so we get a direct portion of that $30 million. Now, I didn't know that they were gonna settle with the Sackler family last week. So we put in a miscellaneous revenue item so that money that comes in for things like that's just one example, will have a place to go in the budget. The second thing that goes in there is what's called as cheated funds. So if somebody dies without family, without anybody to receive their whatever they have left after they've passed, the state takes on the responsibility of advertising that. In fact, Massachusetts is the biggest one. If you ever watch any of the Massachusetts TV stations, the Secretary of State is on there all the time saying, look to see if there's any money in your name in this. Yeah. After 3 years of looking, the money then reverts to the counties. Now, I have no idea how much that's going to be. The finance director and I went up there a couple of years ago just to ask for projections. They couldn't give them to us or wouldn't give them to us, one or the other. They also retain a certain percentage every year, just in case after the 3 years, somebody does surface. So, and then as another few years goes by, that money drops off and becomes part of what comes in. So that usually comes in August, Diane?
August, September.
Yeah, August, September.
What is that, what is, give me an amount for a
Yeah,
year?
it could be anywhere from 100 to 200,000.
Okay.
We're waiting to hit the lottery.
Yeah, it'd be $150.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's never been
a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's never been less than 100, but
Okay.
we're waiting 1 year to hit the lottery.
Okay.
So follow
Yeah,
up on
and it's an
that.
unfortunate lottery, by the way.
So it's anticipated about 800,000. Is that typical?
Yeah, it could be anywhere, 5, 6, 7, 8, I've put out an inquiry, Commissioner McGlaris has a relationship with the Assistant Attorney General who is managing the suits that the state is filing. You all passed legislation a few years ago about how that money splits up. And I'm sure there's money that they're sitting on, and I'm trying to find out how much money they're sitting on. And because we're get a portion of that. And so I'm pushing to try and get that in as quick as I can. So we'll have a better idea. Certainly we'll have a better idea at the end of the second quarter about how much we're owed out of that money. Now, frequently, because Channel 9 only gives it's $300 million over 10 years. Most of those settlements, some of those settlements are front loaded. So we might not get 30 million a year. It might be 60 million in the first year and then 60 minus the 300 over the next 9 years. So it's not like I can say, okay, it's 30 million. We know we get this percent. This is what it's going to be. It's not that simple. So I've asked Commissioner McGlaris, who worked on the original committee with the Attorney General's office, to call out to him to find out what our cut of that 30 million is going to be and when we can expect to receive it.
So you're
by-
thinking it's like between 600,000 to 800,000?
No, if we get, unfortunately, the way the law is written, each county gets a percent. Our percent's lowered because we have 2 cities that also applied, which is Dover and Rochester.
That will get it directly.
They'll get it, Dover and Rochester will get it directly. And then we get it comes out of our percentage, unfortunately. So we won't get, I don't
It'll be
expect-
minusing Rochester and.
Right,
Yes.
Dover, yeah.
Dover, sorry.
It's kind of a slap in the face, because we're the ones that talked them into it. George is the one that went around and talked everybody into joining, because we felt we would be stronger if we joined, and then we got punished because Dover and Rochester joined in to come out.
Representative Southwood wanted to comment, he's on ways.
That went through our Ways and Means Committee. And there now is, I don't know if you call it a committee or a commission at this point, that supervises those
That's
funds.
correct.
But you can't predict what they're going to decide. I'll tell you right now. And we're Ways and Means and we don't know. And it's partly because they don't know exactly the timing. You have to submit grants. There are all these percentages, like we get a percentage as Dover and we get a percentage rate as Strafford. So there are all those formulas, and then they have to prioritize the grants, etc. I mean, it's great that we're getting those funds, but it's not, I always am troubled when it's grant oriented. The small communities don't have grant writers.
That's right.
So that was my issue at the very beginning. I said, the cities, our county, we're on top of grants all the time. I mean, we really, apply for a lot, but the smaller towns, they don't have the time. You have to have the timing.
Have the skill.
You have to have somebody.
Grant writing is a very.
And
very-
not to go too
Big
far
deal.
astray, but they did not have good grant management in Claremont. And that's just a big example, but when you look at all the communities, it can really be a burden to do a long grant for a small amount of money.
So I hope to know by the second quarter. If I know during the next few months, we'll send an email out to the delegation.
Yeah, just to let you know.
So will that increase next year's budget, that line, you think? No, that.
That'll decrease the amount to be raised by taxes.
Yeah.
Right.
So
but
it
it's
would
gonna be
increase
raised in
the revenue.
side.
That's the hope.
That's the hope.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're praying for the windfall. Anybody, anybody other questions on the fiscal budget? All right, with that, so I will entertain a motion. This is just that we are approving or accepting the first quarter budget as presented. Moved by Representative Wall. Do I have a second?
Tim.
Seconded by Representative Horrigan. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Hey.
How many nays? 2 nays. Three nays.
Show of hands.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. That brings us to number 7, which is the approval of the distribution of previously approved salary schedules for the union contracts and non-union agreements to the appropriate budgetary line per document entitled Strafford County 2026 line item transfer. I think the administrator already spoke to this. These are the raises that we approved when we did the budget, and the approved money is actually going into the correct line item. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, wow, I think I did pretty good on that
Yeah,
one.
you did.
All right, so, I will entertain a motion to approve the distribution.
So moved.
Moved
Three
by
have it in
Rep-
writing.
Moved by Representative, Southworth, and then,
I'm the other one.
seconded by Representative Smith. Should I do a roll call on this one? It doesn't seem really controversial. All those, I'll do a raise of hands, just so I can have clarity. All those in favor, raise your hand. What do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in favor. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4 opposed. All right, that moves us on to any other.
Excuse me.
Oh, Representative Bailey.
Partly because that answer of like, well, we're just working everybody to death with overtime, but hey, that's just the way it is. That's not a satisfactory answer. And that's included in this nonsense of the contracts. And so that's why one might vote no. That'd be one reason. That's we're working people to death and there's no real good reason for that. That's a management problem.
So Representative Bailey, your comment is noted in the minutes, so that will be reflected. And obviously, we're trying, in terms of long-term sustainability, which I know I'm not supposed to use that term anymore, we don't want to overwork our employees because it's very unlikely we'll retain them for a long period of time.
No, not if you kill them off.
Representative Harry.
They go, they don't die, they go away.
As everybody who's been here for a while realize, I bring up this question almost every quarter.
Yes.
Now for the last, I don't know, 10 years, and we're always told, especially in the Department of Corrections and someone on the Sheriff's Department, we're working on it, we're gonna solve the overtime problem. It never gets solved. This is something that needs to be looked at, and next year's budget, either we have to come back with a proposal to hire more guards, or if it requires a raise to the guards to do that, we did that in the past, and it was supposed to help fix the problem, but we need to do something other than just say, every quarter, well, we're way over overtime and we've got this and we got that. Something unanticipated always comes up. Well, maybe there needs to be a block for unanticipated things coming up. But you've been doing this forever and it doesn't get better.
I have this, my only comment is when I looked at the first quarter, the first thing I did was circle the overtime because I knew it was coming. So I agree. As we move into the next budget cycle, that is clearly something we want to raise.
But we have to understand that the House of Corrections is governed by all kinds of statutory requirements. You cannot have a situation where there's just nobody watching those people. You have to have somebody in there. The law says you have to have somebody in there.
And
He agrees with that.
I agree with that 100%, Peter, but my point is that we should be looking from a budgetary purpose, saying there's gotta be a better fix than just going way over the overtime budget every quarter for the last 10 years.
So
I think so.
I agree, and it's in the minutes, and as we look towards the 2027 budget, clearly, that's one of the things I want to start and talk about, so.
Are
See if
we,
we
are
can
we
come up with
offering,
something.
are we offering the incentives or at this point? Are we offering that for the 3 open positions right now?
What?
Like, there's like some, just kind of like Rochester does right now. There's an incentive and a bonus, a hiring type of, are you guys doing any, or do you even need to do that right now?
We have explored incentives. Incentives are dangerous as far as I'm concerned. And the reason why is because you can get somebody to come in and give you their best for 6 months and then they get an incentive and then they go somewhere else.
Right.
One of the things that the commissioners and myself sat down and talked about was a 3-year incentive program. Where you would be able, it was an incentive for people to actively go out and recruit people to come in. There was an incentive for that. depending on the success of the individual that was there and the duration of time that they stayed. But it was, because it has to do with compensation, it was brought to the union and the union shot it down. They just wanted a $10,000 sign-on bonus.
Yeah, see, the sign-on
that-
bonus
and-
stuff doesn't work. I
that-
mean, Concord has done this a lot, and they had their
Yep.
correctional officers who I've talked to about that. It really kind of worked, because it's basically, you can't just come in, get your bonus and work 6 months and you're out, because you're gonna actually have to pay back that bonus. So they put some things in there, some safeguards for that, but I understand where you're coming
That's
from.
exactly what we did, is we tried to create this incentive program that would increase, that would increase in compensation for the length of the time that they stayed.
Correct.
But because that wasn't the biggest bang for your buck, or I don't wanna speak on behalf of the union, but it was roundly rejected because there was a different proposal that was set forth, to which we roundly rejected during our
Gotcha.
negotiation.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you, that was a really good point, bringing that up. So we're on to 8, which is other business, which may, represent, sorry, Representative Lamontagne.
Yeah, I'd like to know if there's any discussion, about what will happen to Hyder House.
Oh.
And community action partnership, it's kind of interested and.
Give you the whole,
So this is, you're just you.
This is number 8.
Right ahead of my mind. So I had 2 things that I wanted to talk about that could legally come before us. Hyder House was the first, which I asked and will be covered. And the second is, I'm forgetting what I was supposed to be remembering.
the homeless shelter.
The warming center.
So I'm gonna do I'm gonna do the Hyder House and Commissioner McGlaris is gonna do the warming center.
Okay.
So, for all the reasons that I wrote to all of, that the commissioners wrote to all of you, were all the reasons why Hyder was a logical situation, for us to close. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I'm happy to go over that, but primarily, suffice it to say that with the changing healthcare system, drop the census. And when the census drops, we have to post a 2-week schedule. The way Hyder House works, you could have 6 or 7 people in there today, and you could have 1 person in there tomorrow. But we have the schedule already for 2 weeks. So it was really it was just the not best use of funds. It's a $4 million expenditure with $3.2 million loss. That loss adds on to Riverside's loss. So part of the loss that we heard about Riverside includes the $3 million loss from Hyder.
We were never informed about that beforehand.
I never really had an opportunity to address. You were talking about the cost report, the information that was presented was accurate. Hyder's part of the cost report.
That's correct.
3 million of the 66 million.
No.
No, you're talking about multiple years and you're talking
But
about.
that was put on the
comparing it to 1
table
year.
several times. There was 66 million.
Over 10 years.
Over
I
10
know.
years.
Well,
Now we're hearing that Hyder House is some part of that. What part of that?
it's part of,
We already knew that.
Hyder is part of the Riverside budget, right? Is that
Which
correct?
was-
So what they're saying is that, Hyder, so when you looked at the totality of the Riverside budget, which I think you're saying is 66 million, Hyder's a
Well,
sliver.
not just me, the commissioners acknowledged that as accurate.
Yes,
But,
it is
but we're
accurate.
comparing 1 year to 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's right.
So, I didn't mean to interrupt there. So bringing it back, the Hyder was financially
lot-
unsustainable.
It just no longer continued to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So of the 14 RNs that were employed there, 2 went to Riverside, 2 went to the jail, 10 chose other employment.
Okay.
So you will begin to see a reduction in the salary line items for Riverside Nursing in the second quarter, and then you'll see the full reduction in the third quarter as we paid out the employees' accrued benefits.
Okay. Representative Lamontagne, did your question get answered? I can't.
No, you are wondering
Well, I
what,
wasn't,
what
yeah, I
happens
was,
next with
I'm
that.
trying to.
we're in the final stages of adding to an existing lease that we have with Douglas Hospital.
Yeah, I read about that in,
In the paper.
Foster's.
Correct.
Okay.
That's where we get our information from, Foster's.
That was
Or
embarrassing.
here.
That was
Okay.
embarrassing that we were not informed of this prior to.
Wentworth Douglas asked us not to inform anyone
They're-
until such time as
delegation, do we care what Wentworth Douglas
Well,
wants?
Yes, because they're our contract.
They want us to vote what that Wentworth Douglas wants, but doesn't want.
And ask you
I'm
to
gonna
vote
hold
for
on,
it.
stop 1 second. So what, so I don't wanna get into like a fight with, so when you're in a contractual, negotiation that's sensitive like this, particularly going into contractual obligations would fall under the executive branch, not the legislative branch, which is the commissioners. So they're informing us as the contractual thing becomes more real, I think is the best way to say it, right?
That's absolutely correct.
So how much of this is under the contractual and we're not to know why or what?
Well, they are letting us know as they could, which is what the first quarter is,
How
so
much can they not tell us that's in here?
I don't have a good answer to that.
I don't like that.
Okay.
Okay,
Julie?
okay.
Well,
No,
Can I ask a question that I think this is what he
get
wants?
into a different line of work.
all right, stop.
Okay,
Then it's gonna be a no vote forever because you're
Okay,
lying to
Let
us.
me just, I'm gonna
That's
stop
your
it, hold up, 1 second. All right, we're leaving off, so we've taken care of what Hyder is. Representative Potenza, you have a question, then I'll come to Representative
Okay.
1 second.
I think what he wants to know, but he's fiery, is in the 10 years from the research that I've done. So where we show a loss of that 66 million over that 10-year period of time. It would be really nice to know, you might not know, but I think you could give enough of where the breakdown falls of Hyder in that.
Yeah.
So for example, you could do it for just 1 year, or you could give it over that period of 10 years. I think it would be nice to know where their piece of the pie is. So let's say, not even just out of the loss, but in the budget alone, because I don't have those numbers in front of me. Where's Hyder in that place? And it's not just, of course, with managing it. It would be, the staff and all that, where you're talking the drawdown. If it's 10% of the budget, it would be really nice for us to kind of have those numbers. You might not have them off the top of your head.
We'll get you that.
You know what I'm saying? That's.
But it has to be an apple to apples comparison, meaning if you want, you brought up the number of the $66 million loss over 10 years. We would have to do the same with Hyder.
Correct.
Yeah,
So you're comparing apples to apples. So you would understand that, and I wouldn't even venture a guess, but I will tell you this, that during COVID is what basically changed the healthcare system in this country, and it continues to change it. Very simple,
Oh, I know.
okay?
Yes, we all know that COVID kills
It's
everything.
very
It
simple.
continues to kill it.
Hyder, and it continues, major changes are being made, as Ray just said to you, we've said it to you dozens of times. There are major changes being made to the healthcare system, and which includes
Was part of
Hyder.
fucking COVID.
Okay, it includes Hyder and includes the nursing.
I think what bothers us
hold
the
up, I'm
most
gonna
though.
Representative LaMontagne had a question.
What is Wentworth Douglas going to be using the facility for?
Hospice,
Hospice.
They're gonna run a hospital.
that's correct. There is a special reimbursement provision.
Right.
Which we're not entitled to, but the hospital is entitled to. That they feel that they can adequately use the hospice house for that purpose.
I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with the hospice house up in Dartmouth. It's pretty much it's the largest private hospice that's associated with Dartmouth up in Lebanon, and it's incredible. Like, it's incredible. Their whole situation is very different than us operating it in a public fashion. And the one thing that Dartmouth does, I don't know if Wentworth Douglas is going to do this, is they do offer people that aren't part of their community as well. And if Wentworth Douglas
They're doing
is,
that now.
all right.
And there are a number of hospice agencies that exist.
I've provided them the contracts that we have with all the
Wonderful.
regional hospice agencies. So they can just piggyback right on those
So if
contracts.
that collaboration is there, and that it becomes theirs, or I don't know how that works. They just acquire it. I don't know if they're buying it. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. But that is a win-win because we're still gonna be able
Right.
to support some of the
Yeah.
community folks in the hospice while they're doing it in their private way.
Well,
And it's being paid for
well,
underneath that hospital.
correct. What will happen?
All right, let me do Representative Lamontagne, and then I'll come to Representative Harrington. And then.
Yeah, I mean, I think hospice care is important. Most of it takes place in the community, in people's own homes, or wherever they're living. My mom had it at her facility. And it makes money because it's paid for by Medicare, not Medicaid. So, that's revenue that's now gonna go to Wentworth Douglas. But I'm a little disappointed because it could have been converted to, assisted living for people that cannot afford private assisted living. I think that Community Action Partnership was interested in that. So, I mean, it's a bit of
Can I comment?
It goes.
It's a little more deeper than that.
But it goes either way. I mean,
Right.
people, were disappointed that the hospice house wasn't available. I'm sure people are disappointed that there's not an adequate amount of assisted living that can afford to operate under the Medicaid rate.
Yeah.
It's designed to be a hospice house. So it made sense to continue that, that designation and that operation. And, when we first had communication, Wentworth Douglas asked us not to release the information, publicly or by any stretch of the imagination, because they didn't want to be painted with the brush of, if it didn't work out, they didn't want to be painted with the brush that they let the community down. That they didn't step up to the plate, type thing. So, as part of any good faith negotiation, you honor, to a point, you honor what your negotiating party wants. So that's what we did. And,
And on top of all that, I understand what you're saying, Jessica, you and I have had this conversation before. We had multiple people contact the county commissioners, specifically me. Complaining about the fact that they had donated money for a hospice house. And they wanted to know if they could get their donation back. Now, we're talking about millions of dollars here. We're not talking about nickels and dimes, okay? Somebody gave you $25, we can cover that, all right? But we had a lot of people. I'm talking about a lot of people. So for us to even think about shifting its use to assisted living or some other thing, I can assure you, I'm not gonna talk about it publicly right now, but I can assure you, you would not like the result.
Yeah,
Okay? Now, on top of all that, the Friends of Hyder, that relationship that the county had built over time is going to continue. The Memorial Walk is going to continue. There are certain aspects that we had created that are going to continue. I can assure you all of that, okay? That's all going to continue in the contract. But as the healthcare system continues to change and as reimbursement schedules continue to be changed by the present administration and probably future administrations, we have tremendous change going on right now. And frankly, you should be happy. Because if Wentworth Douglas Hospital does and comes forward with what we're discussing, which we can't share with you right now. If they do that, you will see an adjustment in our budget next year, which hopefully, unless there's some further action by the legislature, which we're not aware of, okay, which can happen tomorrow, that you'll have potentially a zero increase in taxes next year and potentially the year after. That's the result of closing Hyder. Now, we listened strongly to the delegation. We heard what the delegation had to say about the deficits at Riverside. Hyder's part of that deficit. And, you can't have it both ways. And we are in a cash situation. as a result of the shutdown with the feds, which is another subject that we should advise you on, because you don't want to be surprised about it. As the federal government shut down HSA, we didn't get paid. We haven't been paid for 2 months, okay, for our ICE inmates. That's almost $2 million. Well, this budget can't afford another $2 million hit. It just can't, okay? So they're promising us that they're gonna pay us. They will get paid. But as they continue with the ICE issue, transferring them other places, and the fact that ICE is not being paid at all, aren't paying for what they have now. They paid us for March, right? But they didn't pay us for January and February yet. We're waiting to see how that's all gonna play out. But in the particular case of Wentworth, Douglas, and Hyder, okay, the commissioners had to make a decision, and it was a tough decision. It was a personal decision for me. There wouldn't be a Hyder House if it wasn't for me and Ray Bauer. It wouldn't even exist, okay? So it was a tough decision to close that facility, but its deficits were killing us. It's just as simple as that, and that all came about as a result of COVID. Everybody wanted to stay home. You have to understand that. People after COVID wanted to die at home. We had agreements with all the hospice providers that they would ship folks to us the last 7 to 10 days of their lives, and that's what sustained Hyder. Actually, we actually made a small profit in the beginning.
So the bottom line is this is a good thing.
It is
for the budget, and for the county, it's giving them flexibility.
My question I wanted to ask was we started up this whole thing about the jail losing, we'll call customers, ICE transfers. So is the revenue that from savings from Hyder House gonna compensate for this? Or are we still looking at a deficit from lack of federal prisoners going to the jail?
That's a great.
My best budget estimate is the savings that we have from the closing. Even if we continue at the rate at which we're continuing at the jail, is that we'll be covered.
Good.
Thank you.
That's good news.
That's the
I heard
line.
I heard the delegation crystal clear.
Representative, Oregon, and then I think Representative DeRoy was next.
Okay,
What's next? 2 times ago.
just trying to clarify, although you made it pretty clear what's going on with Wentworth Douglas and their hospice, and of course, that is a legitimate exception under RSA 91A for contract negotiations, so like this, so that I don't think the contract is good one, but what's going on is like, why a family member died 2 years ago, as George knows, because George went to visit her. In Portsmouth Regional, and they were there, they had, at that facility, they contract with the hospice agency, so when a patient is there physically in the hospital, they'll basically have leased some of this, the hospital, Portsmouth Regional leased some space to a hospice agency who then took care of the family member until she passed, and I guess Wentworth Douglas really has a similar situation, and are they doing it in-house, or is there a separate agency they're working with?
All the hospitals work with separate agencies. Let me share with you that my discussions with Wentworth was that any hospice that wishes to put someone in a GIP situation, which is what we were running, a GIP facility, that they'll be able to do that. Also, we made arrangements because we were doing a lot of respite care at Hyder, that we've renovated a couple of rooms at Riverside for families, so we can continue to provide respite care, and we always provided hospice care at Riverside as well, okay? So that's all gonna continue, the respite care component. The rooms, the staff did a super job, a beautiful job of taking some of the rooms on the unit that we have closed and cleaning them up and making them presentable.
All of donated items.
All the donated items.
We didn't spend any money out of the county budget to do that. And we also found a generous electrician who has donated all the electrical fixtures like they were at Hyder, and is going to have his crew come and install them free of charge to the county. So that will be in the 2 hospice rooms in Riverside. So all the renovations of the hospice rooms were all done at no county expense.
Yeah.
So basically, Mass General, Brigham and Wentworth Douglas, the city, they're going to be providing hospice services in the building. It's just we're just gonna be the landlord going.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yeah, sounds.
But we're still,
We're still gonna provide.
we're still discussing that. I don't wanna tell you that
That's the
Well,
goal.
it's still
That's the
on county
goal and-
property,
and-
so you're still gonna maintain.
Yes,
the
that's
property,
exactly
obviously.
correct.
Yes.
That's exactly correct.
Representative Dora.
Thank you. I think the problem, I know the problem, was not the fact that the Hyder House was closing. The problem was that we stuck it underneath Riverside so that no one knew what was going on with the Hyder House. And it was a total surprise to the delegates that it wasn't broken out. And I don't think that we should be doing things like that. That should have been broken out so that we could see what was actually happening. The Hyder House has been a wonderful thing for many, many people. And many citizens are gonna be disappointed that it is gonna close. However, fortunately, having a private-public partnership, so to speak, is gonna be a beautiful solution to this.
It is.
So that's what I just wanted to say. I don't wanna see another organization slipped underneath another entity so that we can't see what's actually.
Could I just tell you, at the beginning, it was separate.
It was separate.
The delegation wanted it put together.
Well, it was a bad idea.
Oh, I'm sorry, call back the delegation from 10 years ago and tell them it was a bad
And the
idea.
reason why they said that,
We're just doing it like we're told to do it.
right,
But we used to, at the beginning, be a separate budget.
And it should
So
have
be
been.
careful you do. Representative Wall.
Thank you.
In response to what you've just said, we have been kept informed as a delegation every step of the way from the time Hyder first came into Strafford County private, respite, private hospice center to the time where we acquired it. The commissioners and Ray made it very, very public for years, exactly every step of the way and how we were able to acquire hospice, Hyder Hospice rather, and how we were able to blend it, because we had a lot of legal negotiations we had to go through, an awful lot of gyrations, a lot of planning to make it possible for our county to be able to offer something we desperately wanted and needed. But nothing has been kept quiet, nothing's been under the rug. It's all been very, very open and formal, all the years we've worked on.
All the
I just want
losses
to make that
were
clear.
broken out.
Okay, so I'm gonna, so we, again, this is another one of those in terms of talking about breaking out line items and all of those. Those of us who continue onward in 2027, again, this is in the minutes and will be part of the budget process. So I think I've exhausted Hyder. The next one up was an update from the commissioner on the warming center.
so, as of this morning, I signed the construction agreement with Hyder, with Hyder Construction. The old piggery should be coming down. I went and pulled the permits for the county for the destruction of the old piggery from the city of Dover. Had multiple meetings with the city of Dover regarding the permitting procedures. Those things have all been put in place, so the piggery is coming down here within the next week. And Hyder will start construction. I'm meeting with the city managers on May 18th to determine how we're going to handle payment between us. And that's basically it. It's on budget.
Okay.
It's under budget. So
When is the I know I should probably know, when is the projected completion date of
yeah,
it?
look, right now, there's a couple of things going on. I haven't even advised my colleagues about this because it just happened late yesterday afternoon. As Commissioner Levitt can tell you, when you try to build something, there are supply chain issues. To say the least, yeah. So, we're looking right now at December 15th startup date. Normally, the warming center opens November 15th, normally. But, based on my conversation yesterday, they're thinking that December 15th is more realistic, which I've got to tell the city managers and mayors about, which I will do on the 18th.
Which he pushing Hyder to.
Right, we're pushing Hyder. I was on there saying, this has got to get done.
Yeah.
You need this done now. I don't care what you guys got going on. Let's just get it, what can we do to help? If you're having supply chain issues, who do we call? We got a lot of, myself, Commissioner Levitt, have a lot of connections with contractors, we've got some people that are gonna do some of the work pro bono. But Hyder's handling all that.
Okay.
Hyder's handling that. Because Hunter Construction. They've built multiple shelters.
How do you, how do you write?
Hutter. They were the low bid. And that's that. So it's pretty simple,
So,
except for the supply chain.
except for the supply chain, Representative Bailey.
Is this to be a secret deal, like Hyder House was a secret deal?
I was never a secret deal.
I don't think, so it's
No, you
not,
just
this
said the
one is
particulars are
going,
not to be revealed to us, so
On what?
is this a secret deal
this
too?
this is not, since this is going through the cities,
Cities,
the
yeah.
cities are going to, at their council meetings.
The council meetings, the council,
You'll
all
see
three
it.
city councils have already voted on the project.
Write the checks.
Yeah, right.
Their councils, for the townspeople, is this a secret deal or are we gonna know here?
It's not a secret deal because it's been announced at the delegation and it's occurring under the cities in an agreement with the executive one. All city information on this is subject to 91A, so it's
Correct.
like, the only thing back to the secret deals is when you're actually doing a negotiation itself, when you're in the negotiation. 91A allows you to pull off and do that, so that's legal, but this one has been pretty public about what's going on. So I assume we will hear when we do the second quarter, you'll tell us hopefully the supply chain.
So hopefully the building will be in the process of being there.
I'll do Representative Kaczynski and then Representative Potenza.
Maybe not secret, but some things are like questionable. You read in the paper, well, we're going for some grants from Senator Shaheen. You know, I understood the city's committed to paying a certain amount of money.
Correct.
You know, you hear these things in the paper, I mean, it would seem.
If we get the
somebody
grant-
communicate with us better.
If we get the grant, if the grants, we applied for 2 grants. If we can get the grants, which I'm hopeful that we will, the money will not be necessary from the cities. The money will be, first of all, we haven't even asked them for any money. They haven't even determined how they're gonna spend the money yet. Outside of the fact that the contract's been let to Hutter.
That's a
if we-
big project.
but if we get-
To be wondering.
But no. Well, we are wondering because we're trying to get grants. If we get grants, then the money will be returned to the cities. We won't need the city's money.
Are these federal grants that you're going
Yes.
after?
Yes.
So I'll take responsibility. It's my responsibility to make sure the delegation knows what's going on, so I will do a better job in the future of communicating.
Well, with the
Representative-
commissioners, they should be.
Well, I mean, I am setting up meetings with the commissioners, so ultimately, I take responsibility if there's something, so I will do a better job. Representative Potenza?
Okay, so, I just, I could say this over and over and over again, it's just, I just feel as if you have to have the outside entity of folks looking at the schematics of the documents and all of that. I'm just gonna give an example. So I got my husband involved in a construction project that was supposed to be $6 million for a gym, part of a church and all of that. He looked at it. Every single, architect and they're all gonna over-engineer it because it's all about money. That's it, it's always happens that way. When somebody doesn't have skin in the game and can come in there and is an expert, whether it be general contractor, expert in plumbing, heating, cooling, all of that in construction, which my husband is. So he's already saved them 1.2 million off, with probably about an additional 800,000 coming in. So a project that was 6 million is now gonna be 4 million. And so you have to have someone look at what you guys are doing. Everything from proposals, all of the heating stuff. I understand you're an electrician, but so my husband ran an electric company too. So all of that kind of stuff is always over-engineered. It always is. I'm quite upset that I guess the people that got the contract from the whatever 9 bids that came in, aren't those the same people that got paid for the nursing home?
No.
No.
Construction, no.
Hutter Construction had nothing to do.
No.
Warren Street.
Warren Street is the architect.
Hutter chose Warren Street. We did not. We did. They all had their own. Warren Street was part of like 3 of them.
That's a huge problem for me.
We can't tell
Huge.
them to
We can't tell
tell them
them
who to
to
pick as subs,
right?
as long as they
But
come.
didn't you know that they were gonna pick Warren Street? That was in
No.
there, wasn't that in their big proposal?
We
that they
can't
sent
tell
you?
people to have their.
Was it in the bid?
Was it in the bid? Architectural work was in the bid, yeah.
Correct, they name Warren Street in there?
I don't remember. I don't remember,
I don't remember either.
but it
I
didn't
know
matter
I know
because
the electricians weren't
the
named,
electricians weren't
the
named.
plumbers weren't named.
I
No, it's
understand that.
under, those are the subcontractors under the contract.
You know, if somebody wants to bid,
Yeah.
it's an open bid process.
The thing that
If
you're
your
just
husband
saying
wants
is
to
what the
bid,
bid
you
is.
can have
No,
husband
no,
bid.
he
The
doesn't
main
do that. He
numbers,
works
like
with
you're looking
WF.
at.
Yeah.
I'm saying you need to have someone on the outside that doesn't have a vested interest that's on to them make money, to look at it and say, that's not the right solution. This is the right solution.
Work a little
This is
more.
the most expensive solution.
Okay.
I'm telling you, you really have to have that done.
So with that duly noted, are there other questions on the warrant? The only reason I'm not.
So I refused the prints and I cut a lot of stuff out of there with George sitting next to me and Warren Street. I've been in construction for almost 40 years now, so I know what I'm looking at. They adjusted as an ask.
And we also made some minor adjustments with the city managers agreed to. Regarding the layout of the interior of the building.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna move us, we're already an hour and a half in. I think I essentially have covered it. We'll get an update again when we do the second quarter of where you are. And as I say, I'm hopeful that the supply chains are, of course. Representative Levesque, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to commend the firefighters that, fought the fire at Cope Memorial. And making sure that all the dogs, it was the dog section that caught fire, they were sent over to Canine Chaos. None of them have been injured or hurt or anything, they were just.
I can hear about it.
Yeah, there was just, it was on the dog side of the Cope Memorial. And I just want to commend the firefighters that fought it and saved all the dogs.
A spontaneous combustion fire,
Somewhat.
And
a laundry bin right there.
Laundry bin.
According, there's cameras inside Hope Memorial. And so I was in contact that night till past midnight with Chief Deputy, who's not here right now, he must have just stepped out. I walked down there the next morning. As I was briefed, I briefed the commissioners up until a reasonable hour. And then I walked down the next morning and they're questioning some damage to the ventilation system, but there's no damage to the interior of the building other than the need to clean it. It was in the newspaper the next morning. And when I went that very next morning, the only thing there was a couple of piles of trash. And according to the director of the entity, it was the way the sun was shining in and magnified through certain windows in a bin of laundry. And you can see it from the camera where it starts smoking and then all of a sudden catches on fire.
Oh,
I've never heard of that before, but that's.
You're raising your hand, but I have a motion sitting here that's gonna like adjourn us, so.
adjourn, motion move to adjourn.
Moved by Representative Harrington, seconded by
By
Representative.
everybody,
By Representative, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay, and so we are all except one.